Welcome back to LCS Countdown. Now, as we heard from Papa Smithy only a few minutes ago, he and 100 Thieves know it's going to be a tough series today against TSM, one of our teams that has actually made that lower bracket miracle run once before, Raz.
Yeah, last split was eerily similar. When they went 0-3 versus Golden Guardians, and people were counting them out back then, and we're talking about the front runners of Team Liquid, FlyQuest, well, actually C9, but we know how that went. But for TSM, like, every series felt messy, and people were still counting them out, but they were growing slowly and slowly around the veteran players of Bjergsen and Doublelift. And so it's kind of crazy with how we're communicating right now. Not only the players, but also the fans already singing the praises of Team Liquid and Cloud9, when this is what the losers bracket is about. The development of teams, getting better throughout the weeks. They have the extra time to scrim and learn on stage. And so for TSM, that's already done that, albeit with a different squad, still have that veteranship with Power of Evil and Huni, so you still have to give them respect.
Yeah, and you know, here's the thing. It's easy for history to rhyme. It's very hard for it to repeat. And I think this time it's harder to have a miracle run, right? C9 and TL are far more stacked than I think their counterparts were last time. And, you know, you had Bjergsen, you had Doublelift, who are considered some of the greatest to ever play their position. So I can see it with TSM, to your point about veterancy. They have Huni, who's been to the finals of World, and Juan MSI. You have Sword Art, who has similar achievements. But it's going to be a really, really tall order this time.
A tall order without a doubt. And I think, again, you start to ask the questions then, as you mentioned, Primal. Maybe there are some rhymes, but it's not necessarily a one-for-one when you look at what TSM was to what they are now. And that's where I would look to you, Hai, you know, as we try and identify maybe what pieces of that old style of TSM remain and what pieces feel a little different than they were before.
I think the bracket run that TSM had last year compared to this year is a little bit different due to one of the big factors I would consider is their champion pool. A lot of people harp on PoE's champion pool, but you really got to take a look at it and see how much different it actually is. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean their playstyle has drastically changed, but when you're going through multiple best of fives, you really get to stretch the depth of your pool and see how pick and ban can really go for you. And this applies to also Huni. If you compare Huni to the Broken Blades top lane champion pool, there's also a massive difference there. So when you're going through multiple best of fives throughout the weeks, you really have to push your champion pool and see what you can actually do. And on this right here, Broken Blade's actually missing a champion still. It didn't fit the graphic. There's just too many champions. He has a Vladimir game in there as well. So it's just one of these situations where, yes, TSM did do this massive bracket run last year. Yes, that was partially due to the veterans that they had. Yes, it was also partially due to the massive champion pool that they also had. Whereas this year around, they don't have those veterans that they can rely on as hard as they did before. And they don't have this big of a champion pool where they can try out these different play styles throughout the best of fives as well. So I am a bit concerned on that, whether they'll be able to do the miracle run or not. But, you know, despite all of that, their play styles are still pretty similar, all things considered, between this year and last.
Yeah, pretty straightforward, team fight based. I think that's very true. I do think that they have tools with Huni. I love the fact that they brought in the Nocturne recently. And, you know, Rumble and all that, like, even though I didn't like that draft necessarily, like, it goes to show that they still have tools and flexibility, and giving last pick for Huni, who's still an insane player, I think will do them some great.
Right, and speaking about the draft, I think someone that's going to actually develop a lot from that is Bjergsen. He is in his first split of coaching, more or less, and he's gotten a lot of time to develop. And with these lower bracket playoff runs, I think it's actually going to be the most beneficial for him more so than the team, because here he gets to learn about what times does he want to pick Nocturne. Is he the one that's making the Nocturne pick, or is Huni calling for the Nocturne pick? And you'll continue to run into situations where the player is like, hey, I want to play this champion, and then the coach has to think in his mind, is this a good situation for it? Do I just allow the player to pick comfort, or do we stick with our pre-planned game plan? And putting him in these situations will make him a better coach. So I'm excited to see how his drafts can develop throughout this run as well.
There is no substitute for on-stage practice, and while I'm certain they would like to be remaining in that upper bracket, the benefit of the lower bracket is that time to practice on stage and ultimately get better. Now, while we can speculate all we want on the inner workings of TSM, one man has twice as much insight as we do on the desk. So, Doublelift, what can you tell us about a potential TSM miracle run here in spring?
Hey guys, what's up? Doublelift here. A lot of people have been memeing that TSM is right where they want to be because it's a repeat of last split when we got knocked out immediately into the lower bracket and then we won 4 really insane best of 5s to win LCS. And I'm here to tell you that it was extremely stressful behind the scenes, and I can sort of share a little bit of the secret to the success. Don't know why people didn't ban Senna against me. It was like probably the thing that we had the most success with, and we had like an off winner with every other AD carry. So I think it's hilarious. I think a lot of people tend to draft really poorly in playoffs, but Soren is not one of them. You know, Bjergsen, Soren, somebody I have a lot of respect for. He understands how to draft for the team's strengths, and he understands, you know, how to build a cohesive comp while also incorporating like elements of each player's strengths and weaknesses into like how he's drafting. Obviously, you know, last time in our miracle run, we were just spamming Nidalee, Renekton, and Senna every single time they were up because it was a guaranteed kill every single time we connected with somebody, like on a CC. I don't think there's something like that, you know, particularly available right now, but I do think that Soren is going to find like some sort of core comps and build around those. And a lot of the LCS coaches are just, I don't know, they're just not the brightest minds, you know? I'm not trying to flame, but they're just not the smartest people. They're not going to be able to like see what TSM is aiming for in drafts and either counter it or take it away. Despite all the stress that we went through, it was totally worth it. I hope that they can make the miracle run again, and let's see if it's gonna happen or not. Peace.
Some very interesting perspective from Doublelift there, who was, of course, in the midst of what was that miracle run just last year, Raz. And it's interesting to me how much credit he's already willing to give to Bjergsen, not only for maybe the role that he played in that run, but the role that he can play in the potential of yet another miracle run here this split.
Yeah, and I love the factor of him talking about drafting for player strength. And I think it's incredibly relevant for this team that has a lot of different play styles and personnel, how they view the game initially, especially with Huni, who has like that champion pool and pocket picks that he can go into. We saw a little bit of that, and it's improving in how they can fit it together. So I think that's a really strong aspect of the game that people don't talk about.
Totally agree. And I don't know about the whole brightest minds comment. I'm pretty sure Rainover and Mithy had some pretty bright minds that they showed yesterday. But I do agree that Bjergsen has a really good understanding of what his players like to play. You know, we remember that Azir got nerfed mid-split, right? And PoE continued to play the champion, continued to find success on it. So I think this is showing that Bjergsen has not only grown a lot, but he also understands a player's perspective on what's good, irrespective of what other people are playing in the meta at the time.
Make sure to check out Doublelift's co-streams over at twitch.tv/Doublelift. We want to thank you so much for being a part of the show, man. We really do appreciate you. Now, though, we've gotten an earful from Doublelift. It's time to get an earful as well from Twitter. This week, we asked the fans to let us know which player on TSM and 100 Thieves has the advantage in their matchup today. And there were some clear favorites. Power of Evil received 91% of the vote in mid lane.
Wait, what are these other 9 people? 9 out of 100 people are picking Realm over Power Evil? What are they watching?
I'm not so certain myself, my friend. But also as well, we take a look at the jungle. We got 55% in favor of Spica, so a much closer matchup there. Our analysts as well ranked all of these matchups on their own report card. So Raz, walk us through your thoughts on that specific jungle matchup.
For the jungle matchup, 55%, I'd give it a little bit more over to Spica, because I think not only does TSM play for the jungle and they do really well, I think this year has been a great year, split so far, I guess, in terms of leadership around his play. I've just been a big fan of Spica. Now he's been playing the game so far. If he's looking to invade and get a Raptors event or something, then he's able to do that incredibly well. So that's something that I think he's able to accomplish, where I think Closer, they're both essentially commanders in what, calling the team around them. I think that's something that's very true for both of these players. I just think that Spica has been much more successful at being able to do that.
I'm just getting a first look at these rankings myself from each of you analysts. There are a couple roles where we see an even split, the support role specifically, but I also want to talk about bot lane. The one clear indicator that I see here for 100 Thieves Primal is the bot lane. It's FBI versus Lost.
Yeah, and look, it's not that Lost isn't good. He is good, but FBI has been amazing, right? I think no matter how 100 Thieves is doing, when they were great, he was great, and when they weren't so great, he was still great. And this is a guy who, on these picks like Senna, on the Kaisa, late game, you know he's going to be well-positioned in team fights. He doesn't get caught out very often. And then in laning phase, he can be extremely dominant, especially when he's getting to play with a fasting Senna on the Tom Kench. So I think FBI is, as Raz said earlier, probably going to win his lane regardless of help from his jungler, and we should expect him to win the lane in this matchup as well.
You know, after taking a look at your guys' report cards, I gotta say, where did you guys go to school to give these scorings to people, man? I have some problems with your
Wait, what?
Where do you have a problem?
Right,
What kind of a problem you got?
What you hating? What's up?
What
What's up?
are we talking about, Hai?
All right, well, first off, how do you not have Power Evil at 100 over Ryoma? It's not that he's 100% better than Ryoma, but stylistically speaking, they play the same playstyle. No, they both play control mages mid that want to scale and play into late game. One is clearly the better one at the other person for that. So I gotta say, the 70 to 30, probably not what I'm looking for. The Twitter one looked better than some of your guys's. That's what I'm going to say. That's what I'm going to say.
Hell? Okay.
What?
Like,
hold on. Okay. So I had
first.
95 to 5, and this is me basically saying, in a world of infinite universes, there's 5 out of every 100 universes where PoE's monitor disconnects and he loses to Rayon. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. I was playing the disconnect game. Go ahead, Raz.
I have quite a bit of respect for. I know that Ryoma's previous series wasn't good, but like being able to follow Ryoma up until this point, of course, like I think he's great. You got to be able to give him like some respect. I think he'll have a good game and being able to support closer. I think that's like his role in comparison to TSM that wants to be able to put resources on towards Power of Evil. So 70-30. That's still pretty weighted. I think 100 to 0, like, it is what it is.
Hey,
we'll see the game.
Hai's my kind of man. He just makes the call. He's confident. He commits to it. But I do think that in any case, all 3 of these rankings for each of you is a good indicator of the fact that TSM is the favorite, is the clear favorite in this matchup, both because of their regular split finish, managing to snag second, and their more recent performances as well. Now, there's one more way that we can try and scry some insight into our series, and it's through our Samsung SSD Fast 5 leaderboards. As we have done all throughout the midseason showdown, this Samsung SSD Fast 5 leaderboard is measuring today's competitors against one another, as well as the LCS average. And what's interesting to me here is that while we cite TSM as the favorites in the matchup, it's 100 Thieves who in most categories eclipse their counterparts.
Yeah, I guess according to this, PoE is worse than Ryoma, so we're in one of
That's
the
at 5%.
There it is.
I mean, it will be interesting to see how any and all of this plays into today's matchups. I know for a majority of the analysts, a lot of times we focus in on that jungler category because the race to 6 can be so impactful to the matchup itself, but that is as well champion dependence. Now we know where the players stand. We know where our report cards stand, the leaderboards stand. I need to know where you guys stand. Who's taking the series today? 100 Thieves, TSM, moving on to challenge Team Liquid for a spot in the finals. Raz?
I have to go for TSM 3-1. I think 100 Thieves will be able to take a game. I think that's the case, but at the moment, TSM has their ducks in the row at the moment.
All right, Primal?
100 Thieves is going to lose 1-3,
Oh my
unfortunately.
goodness. You actually almost got me there.
If we had been talking, I almost got you. I think if we'd been talking about this earlier in the split, where 100 Thieves had a really clear style, they had aggressive early games where they can create advantages, we'd be talking about a different story. But right now, it feels like what they try to do is scale a late game and team fight, and I think TSM just does that better. So 3-1 in favor of TSM.
Hi, close this out.
I think it'll be a lot closer than that. I was actually really close to picking 100 Thieves, but I also picked TSM, but in a 3-2 fashion. I definitely see a world where 100 Thieves can win. If you took a look at my report card, the biggest difference there was mid lane, but I don't know if mid lane's going to be that impactful to the point where TSM is going to be able to crush 100 Thieves that many times in a row. So I have them 3-2, but I could see a world where 100 Thieves wins 3-2 as well. But I have to stick with TSM for this one.
Some faith in TSM here on the analyst desk. We'll see how it plays out on the Rift. For the last time here in our LCS studios this spring, it's time for us to hand it over to Captain Flowers and Kobe, or Nazael rather, to get us into the series. I'm sorry, my friend. I love you.
Welcome, everybody. It is time to go into one of our last matches before we get to find out who ends up being the ultimate victor here in the mid-season showdown. I'm Captain Flowers. That is Nazael, and we will be taking you through TSM versus 100 Thieves here today.
I'm excited, man. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty here of playoffs. Only a couple series remaining. Everyone mattering so much here for these teams, fighting to get their way to MSI.
And yesterday was the last best of 5 that doesn't eliminate someone, right? From here on out, all the remaining series, whoever loses, you're done. You're going home. Your shot at MSI is over. So that makes it that much more fun to watch. It makes it that much more exciting. We saw what the analysts and what Twitter were predicting and how everybody was expecting this one to go. It seems like TSM is coming into this one with an edge, but with how 100 Thieves were able to swiftly take down Dignitas last week, we can't count them out just yet. Not until we play the games, man.
Exactly. You really can't. And it's going to depend so much on what they are bringing into the series based on preparation, based on the individual performance. If 100 Thieves can replicate the success they had against Dignitas, that would be huge for them here today. We'll see if they can bring some aggression against TSM. That's what people have been wanting from 100 Thieves, for a long time now, to really amp up that aggression, amp up the early game that they used to have earlier in the split and in lock-in. So we'll see if they want to bring some aggressive picks or if they're happy with the way they're playing.
All right, Senna's banned away, Seraphine's banned away. Somewhere out there, LS is incredibly happy. Renekton's not going to be a part of this game. Hecarim's been banned away now as well, so a couple more bans to go, and then we'll finally get to see what they're going to draft first. Still plenty of powerful picks left to go.
Yeah, there's a lot of high priority picks. The question for me is Olaf going to be left up, or is there going to be a double ban? If Olaf gets banned out here, are we just going to have, a trade of AP junglers? Are they willing to leave Olaf up and then try to grab Kai'Sa for yourself? There are a lot of options here. With the Udyr ban, leaving Olaf up, it feels like that may be the first grab here, and then 100 Thieves could actually potentially trade, for a Kai'Sa or something like that if they want. Of course, there are other options if you want to go towards the AP junglers. Lilia, Nidalee, both incredibly strong. Blind picks such as the Gnar have really been gaining a lot of popularity. I'm not the biggest fan of the first pick Gnar though, because this is kind of just saying, like, you're not going to play one of the counters, and when both Aurelia and Jace are up, there's other kind of more risky counters as well, but those are the two that we see the most often. It does feel like you're kind of walking into it a little bit. Someday is someone that I think, may be willing to play some of those more aggressive counters. Even if you wanted to go for something like, an Olaf plus a Camille, you can really pick on the mini Gnar, so I think 100 Thieves do have options to play through topside and try to punish Huni, but if TSM want to play Huni on the weak side and really focus elsewhere, there's not a lot of better picks than Gnar.
Okay, so we've got the Lilia knocked in. We've got the Jace picked up here, too, for 100 Thieves. So they're already throwing down the gauntlet there in the top lane, saying, all right, you want to draft that Gnar first? Here's our instant response. TSM hovering over the old-school Bjergsen favorite, man. The Zillion that made so many games winnable from otherwise incredibly difficult positions, but it's not getting locked in here. Instead, it's Nidalee picked up. So AP jungler for both sides, and TSM now locks in Rel before the next part of the bans come through. This champion remains just at the S tier of supports.
Rel is just such an incredible engaged champion, really adding a lot of team fight power. Someone that can set up for the Gnar, that someone can also set up potentially for ganks from the Nidalee, because you are going to want to have someone to set up those early bits of pressure that you're expecting to be coming out here from Spica. Lucian as the answer. It's possible it would be going bot, but it's almost exclusively played mid lane now. So this is pretty interesting. This feels like Ryoma wants to play into a more high volatility, kind of action-packed mid lane style here against Power of Evil, try to really play something that could potentially pressure him. With the Victor ban coming out, I'm expecting potentially another ban being thrown his way. Maybe you want to ban out something like the Azir that Power of Evil has been really, really good on. The Orianna, the Syndra, those would potentially be those other options, but Ryoma clearly wanting to get aggressive here in the mid lane. And when you just slap down a blind pick Lucian, you've got to be able to really push the pace, because we know that Power of Evil is going to want to go towards control. You know, he could go towards the Orianna combo with the Rel. He could go towards Azir, you know, more just for that comfort. And both of those champions are going to outscale you. So you have got to get something done in the early game. You've got to be pressuring your opponent and really pushing the pace.
And I like the fact that 100 Thieves is trying to make life a little bit easier for Ryoma there in the mid lane, because whether it was the Twitter vote, whether it was the analyst vote, High even put it at 100-0 for Power of Evil versus Ryoma. The mid lane definitely feels like the biggest gap in the matchups between these two squads, so they're trying to just alleviate whatever sort of pain points they can there from Ryoma in the mid lane, and now 100 Thieves will go ahead and lock in the Alistar here. Going to counter some of that tanky support engage of Rel with some of their own.
Yeah, someone who can also reject both the Gnar and the Rel on those engages, headbutt them away as they are hopping in. Jinx coming through here, trying to secure a little bit of late game power for Lost. Someone who can be really, really strong in the later stages of the game, who can have reasonably good push with the Rockets in the early stages. And I'm going to be curious to see what the AD answer is. You know, you have the Alistar here. Do you want to try to go really aggressive and look for something like a punish, look towards something like a Kalista that has been really popular, try to attack Lost and really punish that scaling pick? Or are you going to try to go for something a little bit more scaling alongside it? So with the Ashe coming out, this is still a strong laner, you know, not in the same way as the Kalista, but you do have range. You can actually poke and push. You can go lethal tempo, hit him with a volley, look to shove in. You have the utility of the Hawkshot as well as the ultimate to try to set up, because you are fairly lacking on a secondary engage. It's mostly just about Huhi now. With the Ashe coming through, you can set up with the arrow, you can set up with the Alistar potentially, maybe even asleep. They are fairly physical damage heavy, I would say. Tabbies are insane value against, you know, Jace, Ashe, and Lucian. Whereas on the other side, TSM does have kind of a more diverse damage profile, and I feel a much easier team to pull off in that 5v5. So for me, 100 Thieves have to get laning advantages. You need to have the Jace dominating the Gnar, opening up the map, being able to create pressure through the split push. You need to have Ryoma ahead of the curve here against the Orianna if you want him to bring equal levels of power to that 5v5, because the Shockwave is so easily set up by the Rel, by the Gnar. You have Orianna for the damage there. You have Jinx for the damage there. Lots of scaling. Huni can try to answer those side lanes as well. So it feels like the pressure's really on 100 Thieves in the early game.
And especially, I'm also looking at Closer, right? If Closer falls too far behind the curve of the game, all of a sudden your only AP threat is now irrelevant, and people start stacking a little bit of armor on targets like the Gnar, targets like the Rel, and the job becomes incredibly difficult. But Champ Select is now complete, and that means the players are loading onto the Rift. Let's head on into Game 1 of TSM versus 100 Thieves. All right, let's do it. Azale, TSM, 100 Thieves, and potentially 5 games that could determine who's going to keep on playing next week and who goes home after the day is done. We're on to the Rift. Everybody's out taking their positions, and it doesn't look like we're seeing anything just yet here. Big 5-point defense for 100 Thieves. As Speako will walk up a little bit.
Yeah.
He'll see Ryoma, but there's not a lot to be found.
No one's grouped, so you know nothing's going to happen at level 1. It's just about scouting. Both teams playing line of scrimmage, very defensive to start off here. I gotta say, I love the opposite poses there from Closer and Ryoma. Closer with the hand of the year, like, I can't hear you, speak up. And Ryoma shushing him, telling him to quiet down, you know? I thought that was hilarious. Those are definitely some good poses. 100 Thieves, one thing they have been great at is, you know, the post-game celebrations, the victory cams, always bringing the personality, so that is fun to see going into this playoff series here against TSM. Nothing too crazy, I would say, as far as the rune setups or anything like that. You know, notable to see that Speaka is actually playing Electrocute. It is a very squishy team overall on 100 Thieves, so you can expect him to play that pretty aggressively. And as far as the actual item starts, Cloth plus 4-pot here from Huni. He knows that he is going to be in a difficult matchup. He has really spent that early game gold just on sustain, on survival here against Someday. And he's going to be, you know, more trading out his health to try to fight against the mana that Someday does have and try to just kind of withstand the onslaught here.
Yeah, and we really want to see 100 Thieves play around this Jace, right? We want to see someday be enabled. You don't pick Jace and then just leave him on an island. You want to be helping him, supporting him, allowing him to become that big threat in a side lane, because the last thing you want to see is Jace just grouping up with everybody and pretending to be a team fighter when he's a Jace. So eyes on Closer and everybody else here. We'll see who he's one of those players who does like to be able to roam around a lot, try to unlock the other lanes too. So we'll keep an eye on who gets up there and tries to help him out, as who he does deny Sword Art when he wants to try to jump in there, and FBI and who he'll keep on trying to farm, but with the level 2 power spike already online here for TSM, they're able to scare these guys back a little bit.
Yeah, and the top lane already going really bad for Huni. You know, actually starting Boomerang there, a lot of people in these super bad matchups will actually start Hop and just be able to play it super defensive and just try to play for experience. He did try to trade pretty aggressively because he had 4 pots. He's already used 3 of them. He's actually down on sustain now, you know, a minute into the laning phase starting here because Someday has a Biscuit and still a charge of the Corrupting Potion. So, you know, he did try to trade fairly aggressively, try to use that additional sustain to his advantage, but because he shortchanged some of the Boomerangs, wasn't actually able to connect. As a result, he's pushed in. Closer's using that pressure from topside to invade, and it will just be a smite off, but resets.
Okay, the buff resetting, losing all its patience. Never getting into smite range for either jungler, despite the fact that they both have it. And Spica should be able to clear this one out without too much of a contest from Closer because of the fact that Huni's just rotating over here. I mean, Huni's stuck in a matchup where he's pretty much zoned off of the wave anyway, so he doesn't really mind missing out on that to come over and help his jungler, because now the wave gets to crash, he'll farm up whatever he can, and Someday's just going to continue having a great time up here in this top lane 1v1.
Yeah. Oh, trust me, he still minds though. It still feels bad. You're getting pounded up there. You're like, it's fine. Let me just fall more behind. That's okay. I'll come over. Trust me, it doesn't feel good. I now get a little bit of insight into why you're calling me over those scuttle crabs. Like, he's getting pounded top lane anyway. That's fine. Come on over, bud.
Get on over here, buddy. Need a little bit of help. Make sure we get this crab. Well, mid lane, they were going after Power to Evil too. They know the top lane's already going in their favor, so Closer decides to get involved, make sure that the other solo lane is feeling all right as well. And Spica now invading the enemy jungle, and he will steal away the red buff from Closer. Then getting right on back out of that one. So despite the fact that Closer was the first one trying the jungle steal, he's now the one who ends up losing his own buff here in the top side. You can see a ping down onto the Krug camp now, saying, all right, we'll check that, make sure that that's okay, and Closer will just be left to farm that up instead.
Yep, but does move around, trying to help get a little bit of pressure here. Ryoma forcing the flash early here from Power of Evil means maybe they can convert on that. Ryoma is playing this mid lane very aggressive, and he has to do so, right? You know, even when you just take the buys into consideration, a tier is moving towards that scaling, double longsword. He's trying to get the action done now. He's trying to get the most out of the PTA versus the phase rush as well. As Huni is being pressured, we'll have to back off, but should be okay on the recall. His wave is pretty bad though and is pushing away from him, so somebody can just base and match TP if it comes through. Otherwise, the wave will actually slow push towards you and you can just walk back to lane and save that TP as Someday. But Ryoma just trying to continue keeping this pressure on. Nice Q through the minions, and he just wants to play this aggressively. Anytime you can proc PTA, it's going to be a winning trade in your favor, and I think Power of Evil, it feels like at times is maybe over trading a little bit here. He has to know that there is going to be jungle attention. You want to play it defensively enough so that even if the jungler shows up, you can hopefully have that health to back off and survive.
And as the top laners have both used their teleports to get back into lane now, really like the fact that Huni starting off with the cloth armor 4 potions doesn't just give you extra sustain on your first trip to the lane, it also makes it easier to hit the price point for the plated steel caps, which he has, and he's going to need that move speed to get away from Someday, because Someday's back in the lane with the Doran's Blade and the Longsword to just continue trading as aggressively as possible and bullying Huni out of this lane.
Yep, and that's going to be his job. They'll want to create those advantages. Ryoma doing a pretty good job in mid lane. This is the danger, though, of a lot of the counter picks that you have to play aggressively, and you see that Someday's creating advantages by going melee, by jumping in. So Huni now, if he can bait somebody into playing a little bit aggressively, Spica is behind him. That could go pretty bad. I'm also not sure exactly how close Huni is to 6 because Someday has hit it. So if you could hit 6, there's potentially a play here. But at the very least, Spica is covering Huni on the push in here. The wave reaches the turret. They know it's going to bounce. So Spica can base and Huni can just back it up.
And it's 100 Thieves going in for a play on the bottom side. Sword Art jumps away, but Closer has arrived. Doesn't hit anybody with a Swirl Seed. And TSM can disengage this one, feeling pretty comfortable still. Health bars aren't even in bad shape.
Yeah, I like the early flash there. Sometimes people get a little bit greedy and they're like, well, maybe I don't need to flash, and then you lose all your health. And then your AD is left solo and can potentially be dove or zoned off. So the early flash saves them too much. Yes, of course, it is still a pretty good punish, but Spica now down here covering, and Huhi also has no flash, so they're looking for the flip.
Okay, this could turn into a full-on 3v3. TSM are walking it off, trying to get back away. Swirl Seed hits the mark that time, but Lilia's only level 5. There's no opportunity for a sleep play there, so there's that health that you were talking about for Sword Art. Now he's hurting a little bit.
And you have to remember, Lost is playing Cleanse. There's no heal down there on the AD, so you've got to keep that in mind when you go for the all-in plays. The Cleanse is just not nearly as valuable in the early levels against the Alistar Ashe as a heal is going to be in that 2v2. You know, he's going for this more for later, for the sleep, for the arrow. Spica going to be getting invaded here by Ryoma, who has done a good job keeping that pressure on, trying to facilitate Closer getting an advantage. If you cannot punish mid, you need to move. You need to continue keeping that pressure up. The onus is on you as the Lucian to make things happen here against the Orianna, who's gone for tier and is scaling up. But as Ryoma takes 2 spears to the face there, Spica doing a good job zoning him, and now this red buff invade will mean he loses an entire wave.
Yeah, so a good punish there for Ryoma being able to enable his jungler to have a little bit more success. The enemy jungler's enabling his mid laner to do the exact same. Spica now heading into the enemy jungle, recognizing he lost his, but now the punish. Someday makes a rotation down, and Spica is not long for this world. First blood to 100 Thieves.
We talk about early flashes, and that's a case where Spica had to early flash, because if you allow Jace to walk up there, get the hammer form knockback, after you've been knocked back, it is too late to use the summoner. There's no way out at that point. So your only hope when you have that wraparound there from the Jace is the early flash to get on the other side of them, hope that the hammer form knockaway is buffered. As a result, 100 Thieves get that kill. They are onto the Herald. They have the extra members here. Spica has respawned and is moving up. We'll see if they can get there in time to contest, because TSM is moving all 5 members up here and wants to fight.
Okay, the Herald has been secured. Super Mega Death Rocket was the attempted steal. Remember that Jinx's ulti is one of the few abilities in the game that just absolutely destroys Smite. Oftentimes, Jinx ultis in the late game can steal objectives from 2,000 HP or greater, so you always have to be respectful when you're up against Jinx trying to take these neutral objectives. 100 Thieves did have good control over it. They got themselves the eye. Yes, the sleep afterwards didn't result in any sort of a play, but they also didn't get punished, so that's just a win for 100 Thieves.
Absolutely. I mean, especially the fact that Jinx actually moved up. You know, I feel like in that situation, this is one of those heralds that I criticize, where Spica's already dead, so he has to respawn and just sprint there to even have a chance at a contest or a fight. Why not just accept the loss, leave Lost down on that bottom side, try to recoup some of the gold and experience, instead of moving him up for what is a really low percentage play?
Right. Down here in bottom side, we're still waiting on that level 6 for either one of the supports. Big enabler for engage for both of them there if those come online. We'll see if the junglers want to get involved yet again. Closer, half the cooldown done on the ulti, so still waiting another 40 seconds or so for that one to come back online. The farm between the two also very similar, as they're both maintaining a high tempo here in the jungle. Checking back in on the top lane, because we talked so much at the very start about it, how Someday was bullying the lane and everything. Honestly, Huni only being 1 minion wave behind as the wave is about to crash into his turret, pretty good stuff for him.
Yeah, it's been really good, right? And the advantages in the solo lanes have not really come in the 1v1. It has been more about the move elsewhere and trying to get things done there. You know, facilitating the red buff steal away, enabling them to get the Herald. Some days roam to actually get first blood on the enemy jungler. So TSM solo laners have done a good job withstanding the pressure, and the question now is this advantage enough for 100 Thieves to keep moving the game forward, right? You need to start stacking dragons, you need to start facilitating some sort of win condition here, because if the game goes too long, well, these advantages now that they have, which are significant, you know, 1,500 gold at 10 minutes is good, they aren't going to be enough in 10 minutes, in 20 minutes, if that has not expanded. So they're now moving towards those dragons, going to start looking to stack that up for themselves here. They have the Rift Herald as well as the Jinx Rocket coming through, not quite in time.
Yeah, these Jinx Rockets are all, they're going straight through the uprights here, never actually being able to connect with the target intended. Just a little bit late on the firing for that one, but the smite was already there. Closer doing a good job securing it. It is a pretty late first Drake. First Drake of the game only happening around 11 minutes means even if 100 Thieves can secure the next 3 all of them as they spawn, you're still not going to see that soul online until about 26 minutes. So it does raise those questions you were talking about with how long is too long for 100 Thieves to come online and secure that win condition. Having a Jinx, having an Orianna with a tier, there's so much scaling power on the side of TSM, and we know that they're one of the squads that knows their way around a team fight there in the late game. Someday trying to make a move onto Huni as he reverts into the mini Gnar, but he and Closer cannot close the distance in time.
We also have to keep in mind that though there is a lot of powerful scaling on the TSM side, you know, the Nidalee has not really gotten much value. There's not a huge amount of setup for Spica here. And as a result, he's actually down in farm. I feel that Nidalee on average is a much less effective team fighter than the Lilia. So there are some edges there for 100 Thieves, but overall the 5v5 composition, I think much more powerful for TSM. So 100 Thieves looking to continue pushing forward. The Rift Herald is going to time out here pretty soon, so likely just going to see it drop mid lane and just kind of accept the crash there, try to weaken the Power of Evil tower because that is still full health. You won't be able to kill it right on this play unless you can get a kill prior to that. So if they could get this tower low, at the very least, you can maybe come back and take that out later on and try to expose Power of Evil to a more dangerous situation.
Well, instead they've decided they want to summon it up here in bottom lane. Almost 2 plates already removed from this one. Closer throws out the Swirl Seed just to check the brush with a ward placed over the wall from Huhi. They will see TSM rotating multiple players down here. FBI does a good job getting the remainder of plate number 2 before the Herald crashes. And there you go. Only 1 plate left remaining on the bottom lane tier 1 turret here for TSM as 100 Thieves picks up 300 gold from the Herald.
Yeah, TSM was very much so expecting that to go mid. You could see that they had their jungler, they had their support all up there. So 100 Thieves makes the read and says, all right, you guys are ready for mid lane. We're going to go down to bot and get that guaranteed crash. Huni timing out a Mega. He's in trouble here.
Oh, Huni have to flash away. Sumday's jumping right after him with to the skies, and Huni's to the ground. Someday still dies after the fact, though, and Huni will take that 1 for 1.
Yeah, he'll take that, and look at the wave. The wave is actually going to crash on Someday's tower there, so Huni will definitely take that. The fact that he actually got to get the kill and push in the wave first, Huni's wave should be able to fully stack up and push in, as it was very close to that tower. We'll see how it all does shake out here, but Huni, right as Mega expires, you know you are in so much trouble. He couldn't get the double hop there onto Someday, commits the flash early. Someday, though, going in for it, is able to get the kill, but takes the last shot on the way out. And yeah, the wave will be fine here for Huni, so it's actually going to push back towards him, and 1 for 1 with the wave in your favor when you were in this losing position is very, very good for Huni.
Yeah, you're feeling all right about that one any day of the week. Back down here in bottom lane, you can see that wave getting pushed up towards the turret. Now, plating has fallen, so pretty much any time FBI has just, 5-10 seconds of exposure onto that turret, he can kill off that last remaining little bit of health. We'll go back to base and shop up now. Gale Force online for both of the marksman champions on 100 Thieves. And now Huni is in some trouble with the flash already been used last time. It's time for the Eep, and Closer picks up his first kill of the game.
Nice kill there from Closer. The flash gets the sleep and sets up for Someday to come in and finish him off. Huni now will be down for 20, and this could be just a full tower going down here, to be honest. And Closer's also going to use this time potentially to start up this next Rift Herald. We'll see if he does decide to do it. TSM moving up towards this top side to protect the potential Herald take, and also to chase down Someday and push him off that turret that was getting dangerously low.
Ooh, Power of Evil going in there for the Shockwave on Someday, but he gets back away with the proc on the Eclipse. Sword Art now has to use that crash down to get out of here, as teleports have been used, bringing Ryoma here to the situation to make sure he's ready to answer. Huni also right back up here in the top side of the map, and it's TSM going after the Rift Herald after that play.
Felt like Power of Evil really overestimated his damage there. Does land the flash Shockwave, but it did maybe 15% of the health of Someday, because you look over at the itemization, he's got a tier, he's got Seekers, he's got CDR boots. Doesn't really have a lot of AP in the build right now, so the combo not doing a lot of damage, and as a result of everyone moving topside, they give 100 Thieves that bot lane tower that was low. They lose all of this farm that's actually dying to the tower right now, so FBI getting a pretty big gold injection at this point. We'll see how much gold Lost actually has when he does base, but right now he's down 1k. The completed item has come through, plus a Zeal on top. 100 Thieves are expanding this gold lead further here, now up above 3k, about 3,500. I want to see them continue to grab these dragons, push towards a potential soul, and force TSM to really play at this escalated pace.
Yeah, that dragon has only just now spawned. That first one taken around 11 means the next one spawning now is 16. Nobody's down there just yet, but look at the amount of vision placed by 100 Thieves in the bottom side jungle of TSM. Just so many, 4 wards inside their jungle, as well as a couple of control wards in the Drake pit and here in the river. They are very, very certain that TSM is not approaching this Drake anywhere, and Closer can just pick this one up for free.
Yep, going to be able to grab it. It looks like Spica will be building towards an Everfrost, so pretty interesting stuff here, going more for the utility of the Everfrost as opposed to the damage, trying to help have some additional CC there. Potential layering can be powerful. You're not expecting in Italy to be able to really just like walk up and land an Everfrost on a Lucian, but I mean,
She just walked up.
Walked up and just scored him with the ice gun. But if Sword Art can actually land a combo and you can layer on top of that, that can be pretty powerful. So feeling like he wants to go more towards the utility. He doesn't want to go Moonstone. He wants to have some additional damage in his build here. But it's not going to be the Ludens. It's not going to be the Night Harvester. It will be Everfrost, which I think can really work out.
Well, TSM used that Rift Herald here for the second time to grab the turret in top lane. The tier 2's out of the picture, but Ryoma on that Lucian in the split push doing the same thing in bottom lane. So it's 2-2 in turrets now. Both teams having taken both of their turrets in the same lane from their opponents here. TSM getting the 2 in the top side. 100 Thieves doing the same thing there on bottom as that mid lane tier 1 turret is still holding strong. You talked about expecting 100 Thieves to use the Rift Herald on that one earlier on in the game. They chose to use it bottom instead. It got them things there, but still pretty hard to crack that one in the mid lane for TSM, as Someday just shoves up the wave, immediately dips out, and that was a good choice to make as TSM was coming in full force to try to take him out.
Oh, he just got spotted, though. Actually, a bit of a lazy recall. He's going to have to TP, and that could get interrupted.
Oh, and it does. It channels just a little bit too long, and Lost ends up getting paid.
Greed is a deadly sin, Flowers. Get caught on that lazy recall. The blue orb spotting him out, and not only do they kill him, but they get the TP off him, and he didn't kill the tower. So that is pretty rough stuff there for Someday. A pretty big punish by TSM. Nicely done to get that kill. The Ash Arrow will not connect, so going to be able to fully push in topside. Huni moving back down towards that bottom wave. He has fallen more significantly behind off of that second fight. You know, they had that 1-for-1 trade, but then Closer got back up there, they killed him, and Someday off the back of that has extended the CS advantage. So Huni falling behind here is down about 2 levels now on this Jace, and needs to make sure that he's staying relevant. You know, if you get too far behind in gold as this Gnar, you are throwing your body into the fights. You have got to be able to withstand the early onslaught to get your CC out at the very least.
Closer on the flank, throws out the Swirl Seed, only finds the minion wave right there as the Accelerated Shock Blast connects with it too. So 100 Thieves, they'll clear out the wave, they'll hold onto the tier 1 turret. Ryoma's down here maintaining control over the bottom side river, just camping out in Pixel Brush, but I don't think anyone's going to be face checking that anytime soon here. And so what I want to check in on now is, you mentioned earlier dragon win condition. We saw the first 2 dragons go over to 100 Thieves. It is going to be a pretty powerful soul here, with the Infernal Soul being an option. So is this a good enough point for 100 Thieves to continue controlling this? We've got another 2 minutes before the Drake spawns. Normally teams will start trying to fight if it looks like you're going to secure your 3rd one. Is 100 Thieves far enough ahead to continue staying in the driver's seat and just control this from here on out with those dragons?
I think they are currently, and what it's going to come down to for me is the 3rd dragon fight. I think that this type of game is almost always decided in that situation. You know, you have a slim lead at this point, but your champions are more powerful on 2 items. You know, if we see especially things like the Phantom Dancer coming through for FBI, if we see the Essence Reaver completed for Ryoma before that fight, they are going to be at their kind of strongest point in comparison to their opponents. And then if you can win a team fight there, knowing TSM is going to try to contest, you get more ahead, you get soul point, that can be your win condition. But if you lose at that team fight and you lose the soul sacking, you're no longer ahead in gold, you're no longer having that quick soul.
And there we go, TSM with the engage on Someday yet again. Yeah, he stays alive an extra second thanks to Eclipse, but Power of Evil picks up a kill, and Someday is now all 3 deaths on 100 Thieves.
That was really nicely layered with the CC. Sword Art did commit his cooldown, so you know, we'll see if they're going to be back up here. The flash definitely will not be available for him for the dragon fight. The ultimate may well be. But they actually did a really good job delaying the shockwave till after the full CC was done from the rel, the snap in, the stun went full duration, then hitting with the shockwave to give absolutely no chance of escape there from Someday. So well done by TSM picking on this top laner here from 100 Thieves. Somebody had the early counter pick. But this is the thing with a lot of these counter picks. You don't get advantages by playing passively. You get advantages with these types of picks by shoving up and really playing aggressive in the face of your opponents, and that exposes you to pressure that TSM is putting on.
Well, TSM's now applying that pressure over here in the bottom half of the river. They're the ones with priority over this area for now. Power of Evil Shockwave is once again ready to go, but Rel ulti is not. He's going in, but the Pulverize will not find the target. Spica gets away with a flash over the wall and a big shutdown. Nicely done, TSM. Getting the kill on the 100 Thieves mid laner at just the right time. The Drake is alive and 100 Thieves are heading for the hills. Huni leads the charge, trying to find an opportunity or an angle here for the Mega Gnar. And there it is. 2 kills over to TSM, make it 3, and 100 Thieves collapse in the mid game.
Oh, I said that third dragon, that was going to decide a lot, and boy, did it ever. 100 Thieves actually got to the double item power spikes here for Ryoma, for FBI. They were set up for success, but the initial gauge did not land. The shockwave came through, catching members. TSM are going straight to the Baron. I mean, already delaying the soul, getting all those kills, taking the dragon. If they get the Baron, this game is toast. 100 Thieves have got to sprint straight to this Baron and try to contest.
100 Thieves approaching the area, trying to check safely as they move forward, but you can't be too safe. The Baron's already down to 2K, down to 1K. TSM, they nearly have it, and they got it now with a fight after the fact, grabbing them 2 more kills. Double kill over to Spica. Good Lord, man, 100 Thieves has just disintegrated.
TSM is turning it on, Flowers. Sayonara, 100 Thieves. They just lost everything. And there is no way you are not feeling the heat after that from 100 Thieves. TSM withstood the early pressure, dominates at the Dragon, gets all the kills on the chase down, forcing out cooldowns, taking out closer, goes straight to the Baron, gets that immediately. They just went from almost down 3,000 gold to up nearly 2,000 gold with the Baron buff. Lots to collect here. This outer tower is going to be target number 1. Their second items are now coming through, and TSM have the much better 5v5 composition. 100 Thieves game just got incredibly difficult.
Okay, we'll see the Ash Arrow find the target here, so at least they have a shutdown. Good pick onto Spica to buy 100 Thieves a little bit more time. He tries to walk away and disengage, but the Jinx rockets are flying out fast. Lost has a Super Mega Death Rocket. He's looking to go off to the side and find the angle here. Maybe he can fire that and get a kill onto Huhi, but it would be quite a long shot. Instead, just saves the cooldown. Huhi walks away, backs in an unusual spot just to make sure that he's not an easy rocket target. But TSM losing their jungler. That'll at least put the brakes on a little bit here and buy 100 Thieves just slightly more time.
Yep, slows them down. It's good cooldown tracking there. As Huni was down on the bot side, we go into the Honda performance play here. Over the wall, Baron taken. No chance. Double kill there for Spica. It was set up beautifully by the Gnar, by the Rel, by the Orianna. TSM back to live here out on the map, grabbing that outer tower. Huni had been down in the bottom lane, so 100 Thieves pulled the trigger on that mid lane play, killing off Spica, knowing that Huni did not have his teleport to actually join up. But now, Huni's back down here to this bottom side. They're going to take this tower as well. Jace is no longer ahead. Orianna is actually way ahead of the Lucian. Everything going so far in TSM's favor here, and they are not done. They've still got 45 seconds on this Baron buff. Looking to pressure with Ryoma topside. I think there's no way you hold this outer.
And you were talking earlier, if Huni fell too far behind in the matchup, that he wouldn't be able to jump in and tank and like serve a purpose in the game. But now that the Jace is falling behind, Jace from behind is a cannon minion with a big chin and a hammer. He doesn't do anything. So now that 100 Thieves is in a spot where your top laner doesn't have the advantage, Jace is trying to just hang on, keep a decent enough spot in the game, it feels even worse than if he was a different champion, right? This Jace just feels so bad from a behind position. 2-4-2, he's got half the deaths on his team because TSM has punished him whenever he has tried to play aggressively, whenever he has stepped up there in that top lane. So TSM, despite the fact that they fell behind early, despite the fact that that's what we said needed to happen for 100 Thieves to win, it didn't happen enough, and TSM has responded very well.
Yeah, I mean, it was the critical dragon fight, right? It's that third dragon, which is where almost every scaling team will challenge the early game teams to actually stop the snowball to soul. know, there's a lot of different factors here. Execution at that third dragon. You could also point to potentially 100 Thieves should have tried to actually go for the first dragon a lot earlier in the game. You know, they waited till post 10 minutes, I believe, to actually grab their first dragon. So, you know, that one that was going to be contested was much later. And it was at a point, because of that, that TSM had already gotten their mythics completed. They were on one item. You know, they had the core pieces. Yes, 100 Thieves was stronger, but the combination that has been drafted here from TSM is so powerful, has so much CC, that if you catch one of these squishy members, and there's 4 of them to catch, they're just dead instantly, and all of a sudden, the gold doesn't matter, right? Like, if you catch either of the ADs, you catch the Jace, even the Lilia, we've seen die before being able to get stasis off at times. Like, there's just that much crowd control.
So many options here, but a nice engage coming out from 100 Thieves, and they will find Huni and just pop him. Nicely done with another pick here for the 100 Thieves side.
And that's huge, because look at the timing. Dragon is now up. The question, though, is can they win the fight without ultimate on Ashe, without ultimate on Lilia? So they're actually just shoving mid. TSM is just going to try to rush this down. They will lose a fair bit of damage on their towers off of this, though. You can see that up towards that top side, somebody is pushing, so it should be a tower trade. They get the shutdown, they get the mid tier 1, they get this top lane tier 2. So 100 Thieves making a nice play to make the best out of a bad situation here and scrape their way back to close within that gold.
I like how everyone just hit on the other side of the wall because they're expecting TSM to send the whole Goon Squad to kill Someday again like they have so many times. So they were ready to Goon Squad the Goon Squad.
Surprise!
But nobody showed up to the party. Everybody got invitations. Nobody's there except for Someday. You shut it down early at 9 p.m. and everybody goes home.
Yeah,
the goal.
The invitation was looking suspect, you know? It was like,
it didn't look
hey,
great.
come on down for free lemonade and hot dogs in the dark alley behind the Home Depot. And TSM was like, nah, dog, I don't think so. I don't want to go there.
I got an early morning tomorrow. I'm just not going to worry about this. But the gold, man, the 100 Thieves have actually shrank that gold lead back down to something manageable here yet again. But the problem is the nature of the champions, right? We're talking about a Jace, we're talking about a Lucian versus a Gnar and an Orianna. The team fight is so much easier to execute for TSM. You brought that up in Champ Select. It's just a very straightforward type of composition. You got a Jinx scaling up to 3 completed items now. There's your wombo, there's your combo. Goodbye, Ashe. That was the Super Mega Death Rocket was just the funeral rocket there, shooting it up into the sky, as there is no way FBI was ever getting out of that.
Well, and FBI was just very far up. They had no vision on that side, and he kind of just wandered over there. You know, maybe a false sense of security, and Sword Art was just waiting in the brush. They land that Orianna plus the Rel engage combo, and now Ryoma just hard committing this split push. He is down here, has actually knocked down the inhibitor tower. We'll see if he can take this inhib or if Huni can defend. TSM are on the Baron, so this is an opportunity for TSM to actually make something big happen, but at the same time, I mean, if you lose out at this Baron, 100 Thieves maybe get back in.
Oh, 100 Thieves, though, their support is in a bad spot in a 1v4. I don't even care if you're Alistar with an ulti. You are not tanky enough for that, and Lost goes on a killing spree with that kill.
I've got to say, 100 Thieves doing a pretty good job being scrappy, though. You know, after that third dragon, they could have just kind of went quietly on into the night, you know, rolled over, but they have been making plays. They have been looking for winning angles here. Ryoma committing to the split push, but this time the Baron must be contested. Closer has no flash and there is no blast cone, so it's hard to see how he gets into steal. It's pretty much up to Someday, and at that point, you want someone behind the Baron blocking the shock blast from actually having any chance of stealing.
Well, the Swirl Seed goes over the wall, and Baron is secured by TSM. FBI would have needed one more auto attack to take down Sword Art. He will not get it. The consolation prize for 100 Thieves is they take down the bottom lane inhibitor from the enemy team. And you know, Isaac, normally when you take out the bottom lane inhibitor, you think, well, fantastic, now we can set up for the Baron. The problem is that's already been taken care of by TSM.
Show up to the pit, nobody's there. What's the big idea? But
Unlucky.
at the same time, you know, TSM are doing a good job pushing this forward, but the fact that Ryoma actually went down there and just committed to the split push, I think was intelligent. After the initial plays where 100 Thieves had lost members, I don't think you can actually contest. I don't think you really have any chance besides a miracle steal, so going there for the 5v5 wouldn't have accomplished anything. Hard committing to the split push, opening up that inhibitor kill for his team. Yes, it's a slim chance, but hey, You get a pick, you win a team fight. Now there's a dead inhib. Maybe you just win the game. So 100 Thieves are trying to play for the win, trying to look for those slim margins here. TSM still fully in control, but with an inhibitor down, you never know what could happen off of one bad play. You look again, Ryoma split pushing hard. You can see that Jace and Lilia are over here on this side of the map. So I think they're trying to overload Huni, potentially dive in with 2 members, kill him off, and look for a backdoor type play. And this is what they're going for.
And that's what I love to see, because they know they can't win a team fight. You're not going to 5v5 an Orianna and a Jinx that's scaled up to the late game point. You've got to try to be creative. You got to look for alternative avenues here. But the instant shockwave, power of evil says, we aren't doing that. No way, nowhere, no how. And with a teleport showing up too, TSM are ready to push for the win. They'll bring Huni in now. Both teleports from both solo laners are locked and loaded and ready to go. It is a 3v5 on the map. Look at the damage. FBI is just gone from this world, as are 100 Thieves, as TSM wins game number 1 here in this series very swiftly, very decisive.
That was a really strong game here from TSM. 100 Thieves pushing early, trying to create advantages. They got some done. But TSM at that third dragon, that was the swing point there. They dominated the fight at the dragon. They got the additional kills in the chase down. They took the Baron. They extended the gold lead. They survived the onslaught in top lane. And damn, there were so many good shockwaves there from PoE. Yes, he had the good setup, but even at the end there, recalling, not overreacting and sending everyone back. Just PoE goes back, groups up with Huni. They find the shockwave. They get the double kill. They secure the win. 100 Thieves was still playing with those win conditions in mind, knowing they couldn't 5v5, committing to the split push. I respect that. You know, people could look at that and laugh and say, well, you should have been back at your base. You lost your Nexus. Well, no, you wouldn't have been able to defend there anyway. This was a win angle if they could get that kill, but TSM responded appropriately in all the situations. They were calm, they were collected, and they do have, as a result, 1-game lead.
And I really do want to praise 100 Thieves for still continuing to try to win the game, especially in a best-of-5 series, right? This isn't just best-of-1 where, okay, you play your game, you're done for the day, look back at the VOD, try to figure out what went wrong, whatever. You still got the whole rest of the series to go. So being able to be mindful of the win conditions, still stay in the game, still try to go for the wins, I think that's a good sign for them heading forward. But clearly, something's going to have to be changed up a little bit, because TSM knows how to respond to this early game split-push aggro type of playstyle that 100 Thieves was going for. TSM have taken the lead here in the series, and it's time for us to step away. But when we return, we'll be breaking down that TSM win with the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Jake from State Farm. I would like to formally extend my gratitude for the Russell rate on my insurance.
Do you mean surprisingly great rates from State Farm?
I don't believe in accepting help, but I'll make an exception.
Here's the deal, Russell. There's no special rate. These prices are for everyone.
With the oak and the eagle as witness. Consider us square. I made that from memory. I know your face that well.
When you want the real deal, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Dreams aren't achieved overnight. They take passion, dedication, and even then, there are no guarantees. But for the LCS, that's the power of dreams. Too bad! It means you never give up. It means you always play again. Honda, proud automotive partner of the LCS.
Welcome back to the midseason showdown and the State Farm Analyst Desk. Game 1 has concluded, and it concludes in TSM's favor. 1-0 stands the series score between the two squads, and that's a game 1 of a best of 5, if I do say so myself. Good moments for both teams, not without its mistakes, but it felt close to a certain point, and then TSM found their moment to strike, and they drive it home to victory, very much keeping that miracle run through the lower bracket dream alive. Raz, we put a lot of focus on drafting, and specifically on the TSM side with Bjergsen and how he has developed as a coach through the postseason. How do you feel each of our teams did here, considering what win conditions we had kind of laid out for them in the countdown?
I was surprised. I think from TSM, it feels like every series they have a different priority system and what they first pick. I don't think Nara by any means is the first pickable champion. I wonder what they're seeing from 100 Thieves and thinking that's not going to get punished. Jace is a good answer. I was only concerned about 100 Thieves and how they were thinking about flexing Lucian, because you're not just picking Lucian for mid like in the draft on 3 pick, though they were banning for it. I think there was a feeling that they would be able to flex it in worst case scenarios and have AD carry on 5th pick. But it's just a high execution draft. In team fights especially, it's high execution, and then mostly focused on playing on side lane. So I think, taking a step back, I liked what 100 Thieves draft was and a holistic approach if they were a team that can comfortably play on side lanes. But that, for me, I had literally no indication that was going to be a strength for them coming up until this point. So they didn't draft for their strengths. I think that they just thought that they could play this style.
Yeah, so Raz, I agree and I disagree slightly. So I also love that 100 Thieves went for a more split push execution style. What I didn't love was the Lucian pick in general, right? Because, yeah, technically Lucian is a flex, but we're probably not going to see FBI play given his role in the team as a late game damage threat. And Ryoma hasn't played it at all, so there's no risk of this champion getting banned. So there's no need to pick it at the 3 pick. And it puts you in a situation where you're more likely to draft heavy AD into both Gnar and Rel. And overall, I actually really like that they wanted to go for a side lane style, and I like that they got the counter pick on in the Jace versus Gnar matchup, as you mentioned. But then after that point, they started to play 1-3-1. Ryoma was off split pushing bottom a lot. They weren't throwing a lot of support top to Someday, and I think it was partially Someday not being well coordinated with the team. But I can't help but feel that if they really wanted to blind a mid, just blind Ori, deny that from PoE. We know Ryoma is relatively comfortable on the champ, and then they can deal with team fights as they come and instead play 4-1. So overall, I like what 100 Thieves is doing conceptually, and that they're not trying to do what just TSM does. But I don't know about the Lucian pick.
I am going to say I dislike both drafts, personally. I think 100 Thieves has too much 80 damage. They have 3 auto attackers, so even if the game had gone better for them, there comes a point in the game where there's too much armor on the other side. Yes, I know Lilia does a lot of magic damage, especially if she builds the Andres, but as a tank, you never have to itemize any kind of MR into that team comp. And at some point or another, you're going to be 5 items deep. You're going to have 400 plus armor. Half these guys are going to tickle you, and you're just going to start laughing at them as you walk towards them, and they don't do damage to you. And then on the side of TSM, I just didn't like the Nidalee pick here. I felt as if it's really hard to get set up for her. I guess the only thing that she's doing here is just matching the farm of Lilia early game, matching the pressure, but she isn't able to put into any ganks into any of the lanes. But that's just that's a trade-off, right? You drop gank pressure for level pressure and just pressure of just being on the map at the same time as Lilia. So I can see where it's coming from. I just don't like Lilia without some kind of hard CC.
All right, from there we do have to dive.
Nidalee, sorry.
No worries, no worries. From there we do have to dive into the game itself. Raz, we're talking about the setup for 100 Thieves wanting to play into the side lanes. Obviously, some days a big component of that.
Yeah, I think what we saw was pretty much what we expected from 100 Thieves coming into today. It was playing around Someday and actually playing around closer. I thought really early on the intent was good from 100 Thieves, although execution a little bit problematic. But they knew that Spica was going to be going to answer and going on Raptors, and so as a team recognizing they can punish that, you'd love to see it from 100 Thieves earlier on, and then ended up going topside to get Someday even further ahead. So like the intent was great. And I think for 100 Thieves, they started off this game on a good note.
Yeah, and I want to revisit something that you talked about, Raz, during the countdown, which is 100 Thieves can win through top, right? Someday is an extremely proficient laner, and they set him up to do that. But unfortunately, it felt like just as we saw the win con starting to manifest, we saw Someday get a solo kill on Huni, then we saw Closer come back to kill the flashless Huni. It feels like they kind of lost focus in the mid game after that point, once Someday has to now split push with awareness on the map. And this sort of goes back to them choosing to play 1-3-1 as opposed to maybe play 4-1, or if they're going to play 1-3-1, send resources top to help out Someday. And a lot of these situations, we found Someday sort of off on an island by himself. He doesn't have a lot of vision. In fact, TSM had a lot of vision over him, and he died twice in a situation where he should have been more coordinated with the team, and he could have gotten tower pressure without dying.
Yeah, in this specific replay, I know we're looking at it from the perspective of him already getting caught, but he was hitting turret when his team was not on the map. You know, tempo is already there from TSM. So, like, those things are a concern. This one, Lilia had based, and so he was already seen on vision once again when they knew that TSM had tempo and was on top side of the map, or at least Sword Art. So it's just one of those moments. The last replay was a little bit more egregious, like you were saying. But you're just in that position where, at least in the second replay, just play more according to your team, play a more patient game. You know, the resources was sent your way, and you need to be able to be more responsible with it.
Yeah, I mean, you got to show some of the good to be able to show some of the bad. Again, setting him up for what could have been maybe, you know, running at home through the side lane. But if there's that lapse in focus in the mid game, you give TSM the opportunity with a more well-oriented team fighting composition to find their moment in the mid game. And I think this goes back to your point about itemization is easy for them. The setup becomes easy for them.
I think the only world where I see 100 Thieves winning this fight is they had the 3 backline of 100 Thieves flashing onto the backline of TSM with a combo onto Orianna and Jinx at the same time so that they can burst it. Here you saw that they blew their entire ultimates onto Gnar and onto Nidalee, which you can't catch and or kill. And they just get zoned out by the backline. They can't take this fight. It just became that scenario where they have too much armor and then they're not able to convert that into a team fight win. Here they just had to abandon the dragon, continue to split push, avoid fighting. You've given up your 5v5 drafting at the beginning of draft. You don't take 5v5s. Go to the side lane, go do something else. You're not fronting back this team unless you're just flanking the back line. So they just can't take that fight there.
Yeah, I mean, even in this specific replay, Alistar, Ashe kind of blundering the initial engage, and then Lucian with dash getting hit by Ori ulti and Chompers. Like, from an execution standpoint, that was just poor. I can see a window in which you can win that fight with the way that it was playing out. But yeah, I think that blows, especially Orianna being able to hit that ulti on a Lucian, like with dash, by the way. So that it hurts to see that if you're a 100 Thieves fan.
Yeah, it was a clean team fight execution from TSM. From there, they run it straight over to Baron with a Baron buff and another just after that. They'll end up pushing to victory. That brings us to game 2, Primal, where 100 Thieves is going to flip their way over to blue side. We had some criticisms for the draft, High specifically, I guess, but I am curious your take, where they should go from here. What are the lessons learned from game 1?
So I don't think 100 Thieves was super far off from what they need to do. Like, don't play into TSM style, right? TSM is chilling. They can just do what they typically do and win. 100 Thieves should continue to go for counter picks, continue to look for setups for Someday, but instead of Evolution, play something that Ryoma is a little more controlled on, play to support Someday when he roams, when he makes plays on top. And if you're going to pick blue side, that's fine, but still see if you can get ways to get Someday in an advantage lane scenario.
All right, just a couple thoughts ahead of the second game of the series. With that win, TSM are up 1-0 against 100 Thieves in our best-of-5 series. So as we go, Grubhub delivered TSM's German juggernaut PoE a much-deserved taste of home. Check it out.
I'm from Germany. My city is called Bad Soden am Taunus. Some of the food, let's say like Schnitzel, Klöße, it's like German potato dumplings. There's actually like a signature dish, it's called grüne Soße. It's like green sauce. You just eat it with eggs and potatoes and ham. It's really good. My dad introduced me into Asian cuisine, you know, like sushi. At the start I really didn't like sushi, but it kind of grew on me and I actually like it a lot. Normally on my off day, I order some food that I feel like, you know, I deserve maybe, and I did good at the weekend. Sushi is really, really good here, so I really like eating sushi. The fish is really fresh and the rice is perfectly done. It's hard to explain, like I'm not Chef Ramsay, but it's pretty good.